Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 240 of Be With Me, 7 Minutes of Biblical Wonder. And we're going to go a lot further than 7 minutes today because today's meditation is a gift to my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. And it is looking so far in the future. So what kind of a gift could I possibly give to future generations that would be of some value and some use to them? It's an interesting question. So here's where I want to go with this is you know that the memories of me are going to totally fade. People will not be able to remember my name in a generation or two. The photos of me will all be faded. The digital representations of me perhaps will have got destroyed. This podcast can't be found, etc., etc. My mind will be gone. My voice will be gone. I will hopefully be taken by disease, disaster, or disintegration in 50 years. Lord, please take me home. So what can I live? What can I leave then? I was thinking about our scripture today, which officially we're in John chapter 10. And the story is, I'm going to only leave you 4 words of scripture today, and that's what Jesus says. The rest I'm going to fill in with the story. Jesus has defined himself as being God. The Jews are mad. They're going to stone him. They pick up rocks to stone him. Jesus pulls out a scripture that's 1,000 years old from Psalm 82, and it somehow stops them in their tracks, and they don't stone him at the time. So he uses a weapon, if you will, that's 1,000 years old, and today that weapon is 3,000 years old from this psalm that he quotes. And then he adds to Scripture, and he says these 4 words: Scripture cannot be broken. Say it again: Scripture cannot be broken. So he quotes Psalm 82, and then he says, like almost in parentheses, almost like a throwaway, Scripture cannot be broken. Now this should really blow our minds, because that means it is otherworldly. We live in a world of moths and rust and decay and entropy and just basically things falling apart. I just want to illustrate that. We went to my wife's grandfather's farm back in the 1980s, and in the field, in the way back field, was this I think it was a 1934 Roadster car, and it had a tree. It was all rusted out. You couldn't even recognize it barely as a car, and it had a tree, and I'm not a little tree, a big tree growing through its driver's seat and up through the roof. And think about this: at the time of World War II, that 1934 car would have been already old, if not ancient, and eventually at some point, let's say 1945, I'm making this up, they dragged the old car out to the field, and then rust and decay do its magic on it, and it basically turns into dust. So it's the old story of these field finds and these barn finds. So this is as if Jesus goes out to the field of Scripture, if you will, and he chooses a field that's 1,000 years old, and he finds this car, this Scripture as it were, and there's not a tread gone from the tires, and the car is out there in the field, is shiny and bright and functioning and powerful and thrilling. Remember the thrill perhaps of a new car. If you got into that 1934 Roadster, he's able to get into it 1,000 years ago, and if I get into it now, it can still thrill me. And if you get into it, my children and grandchildren, many years from now, 500 years from now, it can still be as thrilling of a new car, fast, beautiful, reliable, as it ever was for me or for Jesus 2,000 years ago.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Or for the people of the Old Testament. So the point is that Scripture is still intact. So 500 years from now, if you're discouraged, like we were talking about yesterday in episode 239, if you're discouraged or weary, remember this, that Scripture cannot be broken. Or if you're stuck in your sin, Scripture cannot be broken. It's still reliable for that problem. Or if you're marveling at creation and you wonder who the Creator is, remember that Scripture cannot be broken. If you're in need of a good shepherd, Scripture cannot be broken. Or if you wonder who has got death under control and whether Jesus rose from the dead, remember, Scripture cannot be broken. Or perhaps you need some principles for your marriage. Scripture cannot be broken. Or how you should conduct yourself sexually. Scripture cannot be broken. Or what should be your relationship to your government. Scripture cannot be broken. Or what your relationship should be to the people of God. Remember, Scripture cannot be broken. Or if you want to understand where you come from, what your history is spiritually, Scripture cannot be broken. Or if you want to know what the great men and women of the past did and how they walked, remember, you're not the first. Scripture cannot be broken. So my gift to my grandchildren is a gift that is just as shiny and bright and powerful and effective as it ever was and it ever will be. Of interest, I thought that this concept was like throughout Scripture, and there's really only a few very vague references to this. In other words, Jesus adds to the Scripture by saying this. This is not a throwaway, even though it just seems like it in the fight that he's having with the people of his day, where he says, Scripture cannot be broken. So my gift to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and 500 years from now, and if the Lord wills, 5,000 years from now, is a gift that God has given to me and gave to my parents' generations and generations before that, is this Scripture that's 1,000 years old or 3,000 years old. It's more than 1,000. It has to be at least 2,000. Or 3,000 years old, but it's still effective. It's still working absolutely perfectly. There's not a dot of rust on it. Moth has not destroyed it. It is just as effective today as it was 3,000 years ago. So my gift to my grandchildren is that Scripture cannot be broken.